Good morning everyone, welcome back to another video. If you don't know me, my name's Mark. I'm a Porsche Cayman owner and I lease this BMW i3. I've had this for about just 3 months now. I've just clocked over 2,500 miles. So now I've had a chance to kind of get to know it, understand a bit more about EV life, being a die-hard petrol head and manual gearbox fanatic. I thought it was time I shared a few thoughts on what it's like, what's it like running an EV. So why the i3 then? Why not one of the other multitude of EVs out there, if that's what I was going for? Well, partly it's because this was just available. This was a stock car that I took from a leasing broker. I did have a Mini on order, but they kept pushing the delivery back further and further and further. This car though has some quite unique things about it. When BMW came up with this, they did some really special things. What makes this special then? Well, when this was designed, which was back in 2012, it was released in 2013, the battery tech was really quite poor. So the capacity of the battery that you could get, and therefore the range, was really, really limited. So in order to eke out every possible mile from that limited capacity, they made the car as light as possible. And to do that, they really went to town on using some exotic materials and new construction methods. So I'll talk you through some of those. The car's made in 2 parts basically. You've got along the bottom here is what's called the drive module. So that's the batteries, the suspension, the motor, all of that. That's all made of aluminium. And that extends as far as even all the nuts and bolts and so on are made of aluminium. My Porsche Cayman's got aluminium suspension components, but still got steel bolts in a lot of places holding it together. But they really went to town on this, and it's aluminium bolts, fixings, everything to keep weight out of that drive module. And then the bit on the top, the life module, as they call it, is basically all plastic, carbon fibre reinforced plastic, or carbon fibre reinforced polymer as they like to call it. So that made it super light. You can see that with all of the body panels. They all flex. You don't see dented i3s because they just don't dent, they bend. They're really, really quite unique in the way they're built. If you're not familiar with these things, oh, that's something to note as well, the door handle. Normally you have a hinge at the front and it pulls out from the back, but on these it does it the other way, which is a bit odd. If you're not familiar with these, we have these suicide or coach or rear opening doors, and that really was, I think anyway, a gimmick to showcase the construction methods of this car. So when you open it up and you look in here, you can see the carbon fibre all the way along here. The entire upper life module, as it's called, is made of this stuff all the way around, all the way up. That keeps it super stiff, so it doesn't need a B-pillar up and down the middle. And they took weight out of every item possible. I mean, look at these seats. They are comfortable. They don't really have any bolstering. You're all over the place if you try cornering with any enthusiasm, which I'll show you in a bit when we go out for a drive. But look how thin that is. That's incredible how they've managed to make that seat as comfortable as it is, as supportive as it is, but make it that thin and keep the weight down. You can actually, if you press the back, that's fabric, you can kind of feel through to the back of the person sitting on the front. So they are kind of like deck chairs, but they work, they're comfortable, and I've certainly never felt uncomfortable when driving it. All of the i3s come in a 2-tone finish. They talk about I think it's the belt line, which is the colour that goes around the middle, and then you have black at the front bumper and rear valance, and then black across the top. I think the non-S, because this is an i3S, I'll talk about that in a second, I think has silver across the top. On this one, these bits are black. People also think this is black, but actually it's not. It's unpainted carbon fibre. I'll see if I can show that. I doubt I'll be able to. I doubt it will come across on the camera, but that's black. And then this bit is actually the naked carbon fibre reinforced polymer. It's got really short overhangs front and rear. The wheels are absolutely pushed out to each corner. So under the front, if I just open the front trunk or the fruit, you've got screen wash, I think it might be the 12-volt battery under there. This space here, which is where I keep my charging cable. It's not waterproof, so you don't want to put anything in there that you're too worried about, but that's what you get at the front of the car. Here's something to note that I spotted not long ago. The wipers. Taking weight out, look at that. Honeycomb wiper arms, and on this side as well. I've never seen that before. And the back, the boot, well, you've got the electric motor under the floor, so it's a bit compromised, but for me it's not too bad. I think it's 210 litres or something like that, it might be. There's nothing to see under here. Like I say, that's where the motor is. The motor's that side. That side you could get in the earlier models a 647cc 2-cylinder petrol generator, which would extend the range. So it's called the range extender, or the REX. And it's quite a deceptively large car. When I ordered this, I ordered it blind. I'd never driven one, I'd never even sat in one. And to me, it was a small car. It looks like a small car because the wheels are in proportion to the car to make it look like a small car, but they're 20-inch wheels. So the body on top is actually quite large. It just kind of shrinks around the wheels. I'll put up now a picture of this alongside my daughter's Peugeot 107, and you can see just how big this thing really is. Talking of those wheels, the 20-inch rims, it's comical how much space there is behind these wheels. Really easy to clean, although I've only cleaned this thing once, but the discs look tiny. They're absolutely lost behind these 20s. So why did they make the wheels 20 inches apart from the styling things? Well, by making them 20 inches, they could reduce the width of the tyres, which reduces the aero drag with the air going underneath the car. So they made them as narrow as possible, but by making them bigger, they increased the section of the tyre that was actually in contact with the road. So you give up some grip on the width of the tyre, but you get it back because the circumference is that much bigger. And the interior space, that's pretty good really. In fact, it feels bigger up front anyway than it does driving my wife's Ford C-Max. That seat currently is set for me. I can sit behind there. I wouldn't want to for a great long journey, but it's perfectly adequate to get a couple of adults in there. And that brings me on to one of the gripes that I hear a lot about this car. People moan about the back doors, about how it's so awkward. Well, I think it's just about perception. See, if you buy this car thinking you're getting a 5-door car, you're going to be disappointed. But I don't see it as a 5-door car. I see it as a 3-door plus rather than a 5-door minus, if that makes sense. Think of it as if you're buying a 3-door car, and it's a good thing. Think of it as if you're buying a 5-door car, you're going to be disappointed. Another thing they did to take some weight out of the car was make extensive use of this material. This is a polymer which is reinforced with fibres from the Knaf plant, which is a member of the hemp family, and hemp's used to make rope, so it's really strong. This stuff is all over the place. It does look a bit like, you know, unfinished packaging, but for the same strength and size of a particular panel, these things are 30% lighter than they would be if they were made out of normal polymer. And BMW carried that through onto my friend's M4 CS. So clearly it's, you know, it's something that works and has benefits. And the cabin, quite a quirky place. Doesn't really, to me anyway, look to have aged at all. It's all swooping lines, got the 2 screens. This one's actually quite primitive. I'm going to make a video on the whole power gauge and brake regeneration thing. And on the brake regeneration, we'll talk about this when I'm out driving. There's only one setting. You can't vary the brake regeneration on this car. It's quite strong, it works, but I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about brake regeneration, particularly with regards to the fact that if you use brake regeneration, you are losing range. That's a fact, and I will make a video on that in the future. So if you want to see that, don't forget to subscribe, tick that notification icon, and you won't miss my uploads on this car. So that's a quick walk around of the outside and some of the principal things on the i3. Let's take it for a drive. I'll tell you what it feels like, how it goes, how it stops, how it responds. the benefit of its 1250 kilo curb weight, which is really, really light for an EV. Just about everything else is a ton more, it's not a ton, half a ton more. Things like Renault Zoe accepted, of course, because they're really tiny cars. But this thing's got a decent slug of power as well, so it goes really, really quite well. So here we are in the cabin. You've got traditional iDrive down there, a drive mode selector. There's your principal control panel with the touch sensitive programmable buttons up there, only single zone climate control, and this slightly odd screen and slightly odd gear selector. So let's just get it started up. There you go. And my default is I've got pre-programmed here, traction. Let's get that off. And let's also get into sport mode. There we go. So, sport mode engaged, traction off, aircon on low setting, which according to this is going to take 5 miles off of my 130 mile potential range. Don't really care about that. I'll talk about the battery and charging and everything else when I get going. So here we go. See, the traction, it did spin a little bit. This is meant to be dynamic traction control, but it's not really that dynamic. It's more like in my M140i, you could turn the traction control completely off. You could defeat it entirely. And there was also a sport mode, which allowed a little bit of slip. That's what the dynamic traction control is doing, I think, but it allows even less. The first couple of months of me having this car, it was absolutely dry. We didn't get any rain whatsoever through July and August. You know, the weather was really quite good. It's only recently that I've got to play about with this car in the rain a bit, and it's a lot of fun. Coming off of some nice, smooth, quiet, empty, but wet roundabouts, you do get a bit of angle. You can provoke it, you can get the back of the car to move, but it doesn't let it go very far. As you can probably tell, this thing just wafts along. It's so silent, so quiet. That's what all EVs get as standard. You think about what Rolls-Royce spent over the years trying to make the engine inaudible, trying to smooth out the vibrations of the engine. They've spent millions and millions of pounds trying to get it so that they can balance a pound coin or whatever on the engine and rev it, and it stays there because it's absolutely vibration free. Yet every single EV gets Rolls-Royce levels of refinement as standard. And for a daily and something which is just meant to get you from A to B, that's a really, really good thing. So brake regeneration, just coming up to the junction here, take my foot off, slow down. It does bring you to a halt completely in most situations. There you go. If you're on a downward slope, it will still creep forward a bit. But I like it. I've really adapted to it quite quickly and quite easily. No, let's go this way actually. I'm going to head to my 2 favourite roundabouts. Okay. See, I can't see left at the moment. No idea what's coming, so I'm just going to have to punch it. Back wheel scrabbling. And there we go, 55, 60 miles an hour. So it's not the quickest thing ever, but it's got, well, in this, the i3S, which has slightly wider tyres than the standard car. I think standard has 155 section tyres all round. This has got, I think, 175 on the front and 195s on the back. So this has got a bit more grip. It's got a bit more power. Instead of 170 PS, I think it's 184 PS. 135 kilowatts instead of, I think, 125 kilowatts. Someone correct me on that if that's not right. But this has got a decent amount of poke. The torque, as we know, is there from 0 RPM, so you get full torque the second you press the throttle. And with the i3S, you get the sport mode. Now, I've never driven a non-S car, so I can't comment on what they're like, but if the throttle mapping is the same as this is like, if I put it back into comfort mode, there's a softness there. When I squeeze the throttle, it builds smoothly. There you go. If I put this in sport and I jab the throttle, it really is very abrupt in the way that it picks up. The throttle response on this thing is fantastic. I've seen comments on the ride that it's a bit choppy, and yeah, it is actually quite firm. I don't think it's that the chassis itself is inherently firm. It's got a really low centre of gravity because all the batteries are down there, but I am sat really, really high up. I'd love the seat to go lower. Can't go any lower than this. This is as low as it goes. So it's got the low centre of gravity. All the weight's down there. There's no weight up here because everything kind of above my hip line is made of plastic. It's all super, super lightweight. So the car, I don't think, rolls a great deal at its wheel level, but because I'm so high and the top of the car is so high, it really does yaw about a bit. And you feel that as a driver. It does feel like you're, getting pitched back and forth quite a lot. So I had to use the friction brakes then, but that was bad planning on my part. I should have come off the throttle a whole load earlier and used the brake regeneration. Or actually, as I said, brake regeneration. A bit of wheel spin there. It doesn't let it run away. Yeah, the brake regeneration loses you range. You should try and avoid using it. But like I said, another video for that one. As a car to commute in though, it's absolutely hilarious. It is, super relaxed and very comfortable, very quiet, very stress-free. But you just wish for traffic lights. You wish to be at the front when the lights go red. And punching it away from those is something I will never ever get tired of. On a cross-country thrash, like today, if I found myself stuck behind someone doing 40, it's so easy to get past. In my Cayman, I've got the punch to do it, but I really have to plan it. I have to select the right gear. I have to hold back, maybe build some momentum before I get there. In this, nope, see the opportunity, move out, punch it, and you're past. It's just ridiculous how quickly this builds speed. I genuinely think that on a country road, I'm planning to put this to the test in a future video with my friend driving my Cayman. I don't think he'll be able to stay with me in this, or he certainly won't be able to lose me if he's ahead. So we're going to put that to the test at some point in the future. I think this would hang on to most things down a country road. So why aren't they making cars like this anymore then? Well, basically it's because of the advancement in battery technology. This was necessary to get anything like a half decent usable range out of a car with a 22 kilowatt hour battery, which is all they could fit into this back in the day. Oh, the way it picks up. Yes, 22 kilowatt hours. Now they can get 42 kilowatt hours in there. So it's pretty much doubled the range, if not more. And in fact, the pure battery electric vehicle 42 kilowatt hour range version of this car that I've got now has a range greater than the original car with that petrol engine range extender. Here's a question. I think I was going to mention something about it when I was walking around the car. I don't think I did, but the car, the weight balance, the way it's set up, is that the motor is on the left at the back and it used to have the range extender on the right. Well, with the permanent removal of the range extender, that would left bias the weight of the car. So if you've got a left-hand drive car and you're driving solo, you've got the driver over there and the motor over there at the back. But in the right-hand drive version, of course, you've got the motor over there and you've got the driver this side. So is this peak i3S, motor, driver, pure chassis balance? As for the range that I get from this car, I'm really not going to be going into that in any video. So if you want to find out how I get on with the charging network and so on, go watch someone else. There's hundreds and hundreds of people out there that obsess over the detail and the experience of the public charging network, and I appreciate completely that for a lot of people that's a major thing. But I've got workplace charging, I charge it up, I get home, I have 94% of the battery when I get home. So I'm never going to use the public charging network. So that's not something you're going to get from me if you follow me in this car. I didn't mention at the beginning, but my channel, or did I? Not sure. My channel is all about the drive. I'm just a passionate driver. I love driving my Cayman. I'll drive it 4 hours just for fun, doing track days and so on. It's all about the drive for me. So that's what I'm focusing on in this car, what it's actually like to drive. And as something that weighs, oh, here we go. Left foot on the brake, bring it round. Oh, front's just starting to push there. Oh, there we go, bit of oversteer. Let's try again. Okay, he wasn't expecting me. Yeah, my focus in this car is all about the drive. Just doesn't want to move. They say that dynamic traction control allows controlled drifts. I'm not feeling that. Oh, there we go. Actually, a little bit of an angle there. Right, let's come off this roundabout here, and then I'll sum up. Oh, that was nice. Yeah, that felt good. Finished with a bit of dual carriageway work. Okay, let's just punch it up and get in here. Three months, 2,500 miles. I've got another 2 years and 9 months to go because I've leased this for 3 years and 30,000 miles, and at 2,500 miles in 3 months, I'm bang on the money when it comes to getting full use out of the mileage that I've paid for on this. That's my thoughts after 3 months and 2,500 miles. I will hope to provide some more regular updates. Been a bit busy with holidays and a couple of track days recently, which is why there's not been any content on this. But also I wanted time to really get to grips with it before I shared some thoughts. There you have it. That's my take as a Porsche Cayman owner on BMW's i3S. If you like this video, please give it the thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you get informed of all of my uploads. And thank you very, very much for watching. I'll see you soon. It's just effortless, absolutely effortless.